Sounds good.
Okay, guys, thank you for those of you that could make it. I know that a couple more people will probably be popping on in just a few minutes, and I do appreciate you guys being flexible with me because of my vacation next week and pushing the call forward. And thank you to those of you that are going to be listening to it later. If you guys have questions as you listen to the replay, by all means, pop on GroupMe and throw the question out there. I'll be paying attention to our coaching GroupMe while I'm on my vacation. And if somebody else can't answer your question, by all means, I'll pop on and answer it. And if it's an urgent question, just reach out to me. If I can answer, I will definitely answer. You guys are a top priority for me. So as long as I'm not flying or in the middle of something, I'll definitely take that call. So try GroupMe and then, of course, reach out to me with any questions. But let's look at what coaching is and how coaching can really help you guys develop and grow your team. Over the last couple weeks, we worked on planning, and we talked a lot in our planning calls about who's the next leader, who's the next person on your team that you see potential or you see the opportunity for growth. A lot of you were able to identify a person right away, and a lot of you, were, I'm not real sure. I need to reach out some more and figure it out. And then even a few of you were to the point of, you know what, at this point, I just want a whole new team. So no matter what area you come from, whether you have a handful of amazing people or you have one or two shining stars, or you may have a ton and you just don't know it, or the last case, which you just want all new ones. You love the ones you have, but you're ready to breathe some new life into your team. It doesn't matter, because coaching is really the way you can do everything. Coaching who you already have, having grow conversations and coaching those that you're getting to know, and then of course having those brand new conversations with new people. And that's how you're really going to get every aspect of the team going that you really want to go. So let's go ahead and get started and look at how you guys are going to take what we've been doing over the last several campaigns and really put it into your team. You guys are going to put this into practice. And I know most of you already have started doing it, and so you've got a jump start, and that's great. And those of you that are still getting ready to reach out to your team, this is going to give you all of the information and all of the tools that you need to feel comfortable and to really, really feel good in your coaching role. So let's see here. Here we go. What is coaching? Oh, excuse me for 1 second. I'm going to mute because I have to cough. Oh my goodness. I am so sorry. So what is coaching? Coaching is basically going to be the support, or the second S in BOSS. While we're coaching, and during this coaching module, we're going to go over how you figure out who to coach. What is the Avon Coach Approach? And you guys are going to hear that a lot, hashtag Avon Coach Approach. You guys can even do that on Instagram with what we talked about earlier today in your collaboration call, and how Laura's really going to get into the Instagram, and she's invited all of you to really join her. That could be a really great way that you guys could go back and forth on Instagram with some best practices for coaching with the hashtag Avon Coach Approach. And you guys will see coaches do the same thing. So we're going to talk about what that is and what that coach approach is. We're going to talk about the steps that you have to take before you even begin the coaching process. We're going to cover what coaching interactions look like and how they sound. And we're also going to talk about, is coaching a lot like selling? Kind of. We're really going to play on, it's the same thing. It really is supporting, and a lot of the same steps that you use in your conversational selling, you're going to use in coaching with your team. And then, of course, at the very end, always a call to action. We're going to wrap up with a coaching plan, which is really going to give you guys the foundation and the basis to really reach down into your team and make a big difference. So, what is the second S in BOSS? Well, it's support. And coaching is really a huge part of support. Coaching is one way that you guys can help your team get the basic fundamentals. I mean, if you want to humor me a little bit, it's lather, rinse, and repeat. It's those basic steps that you do every single day that really keep you on track or keep you towards that common goal. So it's that support. It's knowing that you're there if they need you, and it's you helping them take, one foot in front of the other so that there's constant progression. So as we support our team in different ways throughout this module, you're going to see that all of the ways drive that end result, which is growth in your team. Let's think back just a little bit to a coach or a mentor in your life. Those of you, that didn't play sports, you may not relate to the word coach. So you may relate to a mentor. But think back to somebody who really impacted your life. Somebody that either maybe it was a rough time in your life and you weren't sure where you were going or you felt lost, and this person was able to steer you in that right direction, whether it be a previous boss that you may have had, an actual athletic coach, some sort of mentor, whether it's a family member or a teacher. Maybe you have a role model that is in the news or in politics, and it's somebody that you really look up to for, holding strong to their values through, all the adversity that can happen in politics. Whoever that person is, really think about what are the qualities that they possess. What things or what did they do? What did they say? How did they make you feel that really inspired you? Spend a little while thinking about this. And while you're thinking about it, try to figure out, can I attain those qualities? Can I do what they did? And how can I make somebody else feel the way that person made me feel? Because that's really what this is about. You want to be the kind of coach that you would want, right? So what is that person in your life? What did they do for you? And how can you transition and then pull those qualities to yourself and give them to somebody else? And that's really the basis of what we're going to do is you being the best support for that person. And what you're going to find is each person that you coach requires something different from you. So it's really thinking about how you can best support them and not necessarily your own personal agenda as the coach. It's what do they need from you and how can you tailor your style to best suit them. So now that we kind of know what coaching is, who are we going to coach? Well, we want the best return on our investment, right? Time is valuable. I don't know how many times I really try to make sure people understand how valuable their time is. We only have so much time. You can't get time back. You can't rewind. So if you've made a commitment or whatever that looks like, the time that you have chosen to give to that person is the biggest gift that you can give because it's the only gift you have that is irreplaceable. It's your time, and that's extremely valuable. So as we all have busy lives and we all have so many things that are pulling us in different directions, whether it be family, whether it be, another job or a hobby or a person or a spouse or whatever that looks like for you, we all have a multitude of plates spinning. So how do we make sure that the time that we are setting aside for our business and for our team is the best investment of time possible? Well, when we look at who we coach, we all tend to do two things. We tend to praise our high performers give them recognition, give them kudos, bend over backwards, right, to do what those high performers ask us to do, because after all, they're producing those results, right? So we spend a lot of time with those high performers. And then where do we spend the rest of our time? Normally with the poor performers, or the people that are on our action items in Vibe, right? Those that are inactive, those that are past due, those that we think are in crisis. So we jump into crisis mode and we tend to those people. So we've got both ends of the spectrum that we're spending all of our time with, and we tend to forget about all the people in the middle that are just doing what they're supposed to do. I'll share a challenge with you guys that I was given in my old role as a district manager. One of my divisionals, I was kind of stuck, and I was feeling like it didn't make a difference what I was doing anymore. I was feeling like I had hit a brick wall, and that for me was a horrible feeling. I wanted to help, and in my mind, helping meant growth. It meant people were moving forward and not standing still. And so I felt like I wasn't helping anybody anymore. And my division manager asked me a couple simple questions. Who are you reaching out to? I said, well, LOA 1 through 7 for sure, because they're the brand new people and they need my support the most. And he says, okay. And then he said, who else? And I said, well, I call all of my inactives. I call all my past dues. I call, the people that just I feel like I haven't heard from them in a while. Maybe they used to be President's Club and they're not anymore. So I call them, basically those poor performers, right? So those are the people I stay in touch with. He goes, okay, Jenny, are you open for a challenge? Well, I'm always open for a challenge if that means it's going to make me grow and I'm going to help other people grow. Yes, challenge accepted. What is it? Really simple challenge, Jenny. Get to know LOA 13 through 26 that is not on your past due or inactive list and is not one of your top performers. And then we're going to have another talk in 2 weeks. Okay. So I spent the next several days reaching out to that group of people. A couple of things happened. First of all, I felt like the worst district manager in the history of Avon because there were so many people in that group that I knew nothing about. So I was having conversations with people that I should have had 2 years before that. So it really opened my eyes to the fact that there were people that I didn't even know. The other thing it did was they felt good. They were like, wow. I don't know how many times I heard, I've been selling Avon for 10 plus years, 12 plus years. The district manager has never called me. Well, again, that made me feel really bad because for the, 2.5 years or so, that was my job. But aside from me, obviously there were other district managers doing the same thing I was doing. So when I saw this slide, it rang home for me because I'll tell you what happened. As I continued to reach out to that lost group of representatives, new people started leadership. That year, my PC grew. People that had never been PC before reached PC because we established relationships that we had never had before. They didn't know the benefits of PC because nobody had ever taken the time to tell them. So I guess really what I'm saying is I've seen this work firsthand, the fact that we leave these middle people out, and I've seen the power that can come from including them. So a Harvard University study shows that 19% of, you can improve your overall business performance by stopping the primary focus on the two ends of the spectrum, the high performers and the poor performers, and switching your focus to those middle people. 19% improvement in overall performance is what Harvard University says. Now, let's just look at it a little closer. When you work so hard with those poor performers, how many of them still fall off? I'd say probably, I don't know, quite a few. You don't save every single one of them. Now let's look at the high performers. Were they performing that well prior to you doing everything with them? And will they continue to perform that well with support, but not necessarily hand-holding? Statistics show probably. Once somebody is a high performer, they are a high performer because they have the will, they have the skill, and they have the desire. So they're going to continue to perform well. They're not going to drop when your focus changes. You're still supporting them, just as you're still supporting the poor performers. You're just focused in on a different group. A group that maybe has a really good chance of moving up, but just has a few little hurdles that they need to cross. So remember that when you're looking into your team and figuring out who you want to coach. You really want to look for that middle group of people that we tend to forget, right? So let's look at what coaching is. And really kind of the Avon Coach Approach that I was talking about. Prior to this module, most leaders have the tendency to be the lady over on the left who's holding the barbells, and she is going to be Wonder Woman, right? That's what you guys do. You guys are Wonder Woman for your team. You're doing a lot of things for your team, right? You're printing a bunch of flyers if you're going to have a meeting because you got to make sure that they have all these flyers. Or you're sending out these flyers to your team. Or what are some other things that you do for your team? Lots of things you're doing for your team as a leader, right? You're also out there. Maybe you have somebody in your first generation who has 30 people on their team, but you two are still out there together every Saturday tailgating, even though she's the one that actually taught you to tailgate. How familiar does that sound? And then, of course, you're directing in your role right now. You're telling them, look, this is what needs to happen. This is what you need to do. This is what I do. Does all of that sound very familiar? Probably. So what are we going to move to? Well, we're going to move to really building their capabilities, building their sense of urgency. Instead of doing it for them, you're going to guide them on where they could find it. How many times have you guys passed out flyers to your team that they could completely pull up on your avon.com because you did it? We're all raising our hands right now. I know we are. I don't know how many leaders at RepFest asked me for extra copies of the cruise flyer so that they could take them home and use them at a meeting. Are we all giggling under our breath right now? Because I guarantee you probably thought the same thing. What we're going to urge you to do is move from doing that for them to reminding them at one of your meetings that they can go onto youravon.com and look at all of the information about Cruise Like a Boss, the Cruise Like a Boss, or Drive Like a Boss. If you have team out of town, you can totally just give them a call and say, how excited are you about Drive Like a Boss? What are you talking about? I don't know. Do me a favor. Go onto youravon.com and read all about the Drive Like a Boss incentive, and I'll give you a call back in a couple of days, and we're going to talk about whether or not you're going to earn that car, or whether or not you're going to go for that cruise. Are you going for one person or two? So read all about it, and I'm going to get back to you. Right? And Teresa's saying that having a team out of town has helped her to not do things for them. It's helped her to coach them into doing it themselves instead of her doing it for them. And that's very true. That's one of the benefits of not having a team that lives right by you. So there's going to be benefits and drawbacks to both sides of the close team and the faraway team. But one of the things that you guys are going to see when you move from leading to coaching, which is really a transition, you're still their leader. you still have to instill the knowledge in them. So let's throw that on the table, right? Before you can, what is it? Let's just use softball because that's the sport that I grew up playing and I'm familiar with softball. But when you're, 6 and you join the softball team and you're just a little kid, do they just get out there and yell at you and tell you that you're hitting the ball wrong? No. The coach is right there with you, right? This is how you hold the bat. And nope, put your fingers like this. And swing. Okay, let's level that swing out. You're chopping wood. Whatever that looks like, the coach is actually teaching them first, right? You have to have fundamental skills to coach too, correct? So as a leader, you've spent all of this time with your team giving them those fundamental skills that they need. So if somebody does not have the basic skill, you can't coach to it, right? You have to give them that skill first. Once they have the skill, then you can coach. So there is always going to be a part of you that is also a teacher and a leader. That comes hand in hand. But it's then going from kind of, I don't know what word I want to use, but doing it for them to empowering them to do it themselves. There's a difference between not knowing how to do something and just choosing to ask somebody else to do it for you. So we're really going to give our teams the empowerment to do it for themselves. So you're going to see as you move from that leader teacher into coaching that you're really going to drive some sales in your team because they are then going to take ownership of that. You're going to inspire action. If you're not doing it for them anymore, who's going to do it? They're going to start building their teams. They're going to start, those that want to grow will grow because nobody's out there doing it for them. And in doing those things, you're going to see that the recruiting starts to happen, the development starts to happen because they are now they're owning their own development. And now you are the little goldfish in the front who has your whole team following you instead of the goldfish being in the back who's pushing the team, or instead of being the superwoman carrying her whole team. You are able to lead, or you are able to really watch them climb that mountain on their own. And then, of course, they feel super proud for being able to do that. So let's look at what that coach approach is and how we're going to do that. Avon Coach Approach, it revolves around this enRICH model. And at Avon, we love the acronyms where we break everything down. So this enRICH model, let's talk about it a little bit. It starts with the heart, right? Everything starts with getting to know somebody's why or getting to know their heart. If you have a relationship with somebody, you can really build upon that. So developing a trusted relationship is the R in enRICH. And you do that through intentional interactions that are designed to build competence through inspiring the person's heart. Now let's break that down a little bit, right? Let's see. Oops, I didn't mean to do that, you guys. I'm sorry. There we go. So let's look at what those trusted relationships can be. How can you build a trusted relationship with somebody? Well, you have to be real, right? You have to be you at all times. You can't be one person with somebody and another person with somebody else. Can you refine the questions you ask or the way you speak to cater to maybe somebody's personality type? Yes. But you don't change who you are. You're you regardless. You have to be relatable. You have to empathize with people and understand that they're going through a situation. And even if you've never been through that situation, really try to understand what that situation is. And then you have to be reliable. If you say you're going to do something, you need to do it, and you need to do it when you're supposed to do it. If you can't be reliable, why would you expect them to be reliable? So the 3 R's really comes into developing those trusted relationships. Now, what are intentional interactions? An intentional interaction is on purpose, right? That's what intentional means. So let me tell you what an intentional interaction is not first. It's not ring, ring, ring. Hey, Betty Sue, this is Jenny. I just wanted to call in and remind you that your order went in yesterday and you didn't place it. Okay, the special on the back page, the A box, is a really great way to increase sales. I'll talk to you later. Hang up. You called for a reason, right? But was it beneficial for her? Maybe not. You didn't really ask any questions. You literally just called to inform her of something. So what we're going to find is that the intentional interactions, they inspire action. When you're done with an intentional interaction, when you're done with a conversation, it makes the person you're talking to want to do something. Whatever that something is, it makes them want to do something. Through that intentional interaction, you're going to identify a need. You're going to investigate a why. And by all means, you're going to instill confidence. So every intentional interaction that you have with your team celebrates a success, tells them that they are good at something. It identifies a need or a why. And then by the end of the conversation or interaction, you've inspired movement or action. They want to do something because of the intentional interaction that you just had. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Now, these intentional interactions are designed to build a competence or competencies. You guys know what those are from that very first module where you did the self-assessment. And Deborah shared on the call earlier today that she has been sharing that self-assessment with at least one of her downline members and hopefully more to come. But they're designed to grow the competencies that they already have. And then, of course, to nurture the ones that they feel like they need a little bit of help with. And how do you do that? Well, you assess their competencies. They assess their competencies. Of course, you're making your own mental notes because I'll tell you flat out, we are hardest on ourselves. We are always our worst enemy as women in general. I think men do it too, but we tend to really enhance what we don't like about ourselves and really play down what we do like about ourselves. So as your team does their own self-assessment, make sure you're really doing a self-assessment on them too, because chances are some of the things that they're saying they're not good at, they're actually really good at in a form. And they really should know that. Help them celebrate the things that they do very, very well. So another way that you're going to help them build that competence is by staying consistent, showing them what that looks like, and then really helping them move from challenged to inconsistent and then consistent themselves. So really that self-assessment is right there where you're going to be able to help them work on exactly what they need to work on. And then you inspire the person's heart. So in order to do that, you have to know their heart. You have to get to know their why and their belief. And that's why it was so important at the beginning of the coaching module that you guys reevaluated your why and your belief. And you came up with your story. And remember, we practiced those stories through those grow conversations and being relatable. That's where all of this is going to tie back in now. So one of the things that are really, really important is that you ask for permission before coaching. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, Jenny didn't ask me for permission. And I may not have came out. Actually, I'll come right out and say, there was not a single one of you in this coaching program that I flat out asked, do I have your permission to coach? And the reason being, you guys signed up for this class, right? So that would be giving permission. You wanted a coaching class. Now, your downline is not signing up for a class. I mean, they may be signing up for the next session, but with you, you're just reaching out to them. So asking him or her for permission before you begin coaching is huge. That's going to show you whether or not they're open. And then, of course, before you begin coaching, you have to know what their belief and what their why is, or you can't coach to it, right? You can't drive them to a destination if you don't know where they want to end up. And of course, you have to plan to build a trusted relationship. You have to intentionally get to know them. And then, of course, letting her identify her coaching priorities. What's most important to her and her team, or him and his team, whatever that looks like. So asking for permission. It's really showing your respect for her and the relationship really right off the bat, because you don't want to start, right, on the wrong foot. So how do you ask for permission? You share why you think she's a great candidate for coaching. What qualities does she possess that are amazing, that you just makes you want to work with her and makes you want to help her in her business? Ask what she thinks about it. Tell her what your experience has been with coaching so far, and ask her what her thoughts are. And then take that next step and ask her if it's something that she would be interested in doing. If she says yes, step forward and start building that relationship, getting to know her needs, her why, and her belief. If she says no, that's okay. Acknowledge her response, respect her response, offer your support whenever she needs it. Let her know that just because she doesn't want to be coached or she's not ready for the commitment right now, that doesn't mean that you're not here for her. That when she is ready, reach out. Or even if she just has questions or would like support in more of an informal way, you're here for that also. And then, of course, move on. That famous saying in Avon, next. Whoever doesn't want it, there's one person standing in line that does. So find your yes. And those of you with large teams may have an easier time finding yeses. Those of you with small teams, you may hit the first or second, person you contact may be a yes. It doesn't matter the size of your team. It matters the relationships that you build. So just keep asking until you get a yes from someone. So once you've gotten the buy-in, once somebody says, you know what, I see value in coaching, and I see that I want to grow my team, and I think that this is going to be the key to doing it. That first thing that you got to do is get to know her heart and her belief, right? Now this slide should look familiar to you guys because you guys filled this out. This was our very first module when I got to know your heart and your belief. So you're going to ask her, what does she want out of life? What does she not want out of life? Sometimes it's a lot easier to tell us what they don't want than to tell us what they do want. I'm that kind of person. I can give you 10 things that I don't want, but I'm completely stumped when you ask me what I do want. So give her that option. How has her Avon business changed her life? In a positive way, of course. But what has Avon done for her and her family? Why does she have an Avon business? Why did she start it? And does she do it today for the same reason that she started it? Or has that changed? And of course, how does running her Avon business make her feel? You're getting to know her why. Okay, I muted whoever just came in. Oh, well, they left. But sorry about the background noise that happened. So once you get to know their why, and they've said yes to the coaching, we're going to go back to building that trusted relationship. And back to being real, being relatable, and being reliable. You have to be authentic. You have to be you. You have to be realistic. And you have to be able to share your story. You started Avon for a reason. We all did. Your story evolves as you evolve, as your business evolves. Not everybody's why is the same the day they start as it is today. I think I offered you guys my story in the Get to Know You module. Most of you know that I started out just wanting a discount on product. I didn't come to Avon in the corporate side. I came as a representative. And I actually I didn't even really come as a representative, let's be real. A friend of mine was a representative, gave me a book to be a customer, and I jokingly asked her how much of a discount she would offer me. And she said, nope, to get a discount, you have to be a representative. Well, that was probably the best thing she could have told me, because that was that. And Miss Susan showed up at my house a couple days later and signed me up. And it took me on a journey that I could have never expected. But that's my story. We all have a different story. Be willing to share your story. Find a piece of your story that is relatable. Listen. Empathize with people. Understand that everybody's life has twists and turns, and everybody's story is different. And everybody's story is just as valuable to them as yours is to you. Tailor your message to their story. That doesn't mean you change your message. It just means that you pull out the great things about Avon that fit to them. A good example of this is in your growth conversations, in conversational selling, when you're looking for the why, or the need, and then you're going to bridge to Avon, or you're going to offer the solution. So if somebody's need is not money, you're not going to go right in with the earnings opportunity, right? It's the same thing when you're working with your team. You tailor your message to what their need is. That doesn't mean that your message is different. It just means that you pull the great things about what you're going to say out that really will impact them. And then, of course, being reliable. Establish credibility. Be consistent and be present. When you're talking to the people on your team, make them number one. So what might a coach do that could either build or erode trust? Think about that. What could you do to build or block trust as a coach? And you really want to keep that at the forefront of your conversations. What are some things that I can do to help my team understand that I am here for them, that I do want to build that trust and that confidence? And what are some things that I could do that would block that? I could think of a few things that could block it. If you want to jump on or type in the chat box a few things, you're more than welcome to also. A couple of things that I could think of would be setting up a call and then maybe not calling. Or saying that you're going to follow up with an email and never sending it. Setting up an event, a table event, and then showing up late or unprepared. Those are things that could definitely block the trust in a relationship, right? So we want to be aware of those and make sure that we are doing our best to not have those happen. Now, everybody has situations, and while you are being relatable and being real, guess what? You're real. And things are going to happen. So if something happens, be honest and let them know, oh my goodness, I completely forgot to send that email, but let me do it right now for you. Likelihood is they're going to understand because they've done that before too. So be you and be real. The next thing that you're going to have her do, him or her, your team member, is identify some of those coaching priorities. Really, what are some things that they would like to work on, and what are some things that they think that they're great at? Remember, you want to highlight what they're already doing also that's working well. So it's not just about finding what needs to be fixed, so you say. It's also about celebrating what they're doing great and building upon that. So, is it in planning, selling, leading, or managing? What is it that they want to work on? And then, of course, making notes on what you think you'd like to talk about too. But remember that it's really about what they want to talk about. So once all of those steps are done, You've asked for permission, she's accepted. You've gotten to know really what's driving her, what her belief is, and what her why is. You're building that relationship, a conversation at a time, an interaction at a time. You've identified her coaching priorities. What's important to her? What does she want out of this program? And what does she want out of your interactions? Now it's time to actually start having those interactions. And what does that look like? Well, the coaching interaction is really 4 easy steps. Identify her needs. What competency does she want to address? You're going to investigate the why. Why does she feel that there's a need? And what might be causing that need? We're going to instill confidence. What can you recommend and share that will motivate her, not discourage her? You want to motivate her to move forward. So depending on the competency, what is she doing that's very similar to that she's doing very, very well, that can just be polished or tweaked a little to do what she wants to work on? And then, of course, inspire action. What specific next steps will she take to help improve the situation? And then, of course, accountability falls right into inspiring action. How will you know when she takes those next steps? So coaching, did that sound a lot like selling? What did identifying the needs, investigating the why, instilling confidence, and inspiring action sound like? Did it sound a little bit like conversational selling and the GROW module? It very much did. That's why we've been practicing those GROW conversations, because identifying the needs is getting to know her need. It's the G. Getting to know what challenges she's having and why she's having them. You're going to do that by asking the open-ended questions and the follow-up questions to dig a little bit deeper. So identifying those needs and investigating the why is all part of the G, the getting to know her and the digging a little deeper in these conversations. By now, you guys are probably getting a little more comfortable with these GROW conversations because we've been having them for several weeks now. So really turning them back to your team and really letting them know that you do care and you want to get to know them and dig a little deeper with those open-ended questions is going to cover your identifying needs and investigating the why. So now let's talk about instilling confidence and inspiring action, because that's where it turns from a dream into a plan and a reality, right? So you can recommend possible solutions. And how do you do that? Do you listen to their story and then say, well, this is what I would do? Or do you listen to their story and say, well, what would happen if? Or tell me about that. Or have you ever thought about? And then let them carry the conversation, right? Recommending possible solutions can also be asking questions. That way they can self-discover. If they don't have the knowledge base, then recommending solutions becomes as simple as, what do you think would happen if you did this? And you give them the knowledge base. Then play on what could happen. What do they think that could do for their team? Do they see value in that? Is that something that they could implement into their routine? And then, of course, offering stories and best practices to motivate her. So when you're asking those questions and you're helping offer solutions, let him or her know that you've done these things, or that somebody you know has done these things, and this was the result. And this is why it's a best practice, and this is how we do it. So again, being relatable, instilling that confidence that they do know what they're doing and they can do it very, very well. And then inspiring the action. So once you've motivated her to do something, what is she going to do, right? And how can you support her to do that? So are you guys going to work together and identify the next steps? Is she going to look at her calendar and call you back? And are you going to do something together? What type of commitment are you getting at the end of that conversation? And then, of course, what can you do to be the best coach for her? How can you support her in the commitment that you just got? So the key to good coaching and selling is listening with questions, right? How many times do we ask a question and answer it ourselves? Me, I'm guilty of that, especially when there's silence. So as I'm challenging myself to get comfortable with the silence, I'm going to challenge you guys to do the same thing. And you guys can hold me to it and call me out on it. I would appreciate that. But you got to ask those open-ended questions and let them think about the answers. So what you do want to do is ask one question at a time and give him or her time to think about it and answer that question. Make sure those questions, Susan's saying this is her weak spot. Oh, mine too, Susan. I want to ask a question and then answer it myself. I'm going to have a whole conversation with me. So, or they don't know what the answer is, and so I think I need to suggest things for them to help them speed up the process. My husband says I'm not patient enough. So definitely open-ended questions, because we all know if somebody can say no to something, they're going to say no to it, right? Do you want to join my team? No. Do you want to sell Avon? No. So again, asking those open-ended questions. And then, of course, following up, which is digging a little deeper. The things that you want to avoid are the things that I am so good at. I have set a great example for you guys on what not to do. So the things that you want to avoid are asking those yes or no questions, or answering your own questions, asking the question, not being comfortable with the silence, and throwing out some options for them. You don't want to do that. And you don't want to give them multiple choices. Let them come up with that answer. That's self-discovery. And when people start to foster self-discovery, when they start to think on their own, and when they start to see the path because they're laying the stones one at a time, they see the light at the end of the tunnel. Most of us on this call, if not all of us, are moms or grandmas or aunts, or we have children in our lives. So as a parent or an adult watching a child, you've all seen the kids have that I get it moment. And it's those moments that we appreciate as we get older, that when you see the clarity, that's what happens when you let somebody self-discover. That's what happens when somebody figures out that they got this. They can do this on their own. And that is the biggest gift that you can give somebody, no matter what age they are, is giving them the belief in themselves, that they have the ability to conquer whatever is in front of them. All they need is the proper tools. So that's what coaching is going to do. Coaching is going to give them the tools, and you're going to guide them on how to use those tools. Now, you guys know that in the seminar session, which is what this is, the majority of the talking comes from me, right? Because this is the teaching part of the module. Through the one-on-ones, we kind of do equal talking, right? We're asking questions, we're getting to know responses. I'm getting to find out little things about you and kind of what makes you tick and how you move forward in your business. So I have to ask things and I have to listen to things. So what are some of the things that we do? What are some of the things that I do to get prepared for our one-on-one calls? I'm going to tell you kind of what I do. The first thing I have to do is wipe clean anything that I know about you. So the only thing I bring to our conversation is what we've talked about in the previous conversation. And you guys know I recap. So, an example of that could be, so last time we talked, this is what we talked about, and this is the direction we were going. How's that been going? So I let you guys tell me, okay, this is what I've been doing. So I wipe clean anything that I think you may have been doing from the last conversation. So I'll give you guys a little insight into what I do. I do not check vibe for what you've done in the last 2 weeks, because that's going to give me a preempt, right? That's going to let me know. Let's just throw out there, maybe your number one goal was to sign up 5 people this campaign. Well, I could very easily go into Vibe and see how many contracts you did, right? So then my conversation could start with, well, I see you only had 1 contract this week and your goal was 5. Tell me about that. How does that sound compared to, last time we talked, I know you were really excited about recruiting and you really wanted to grow your team. Tell me about some of the conversations that you had over the last 2 weeks and how did they turn out? So does conversation A sound better, or does conversation B sound better? I would probably say conversation B sounds a little bit better, because I'm asking you a question and listening without any prejudgment or any opinion. I'm just listening to your answer, because guess what? Life happens. And last week when we talked, you may have thought you were going to do an event that was going to open up a door to 200 conversations for you. And out of 200 conversations, you were quite certain you could get 5 yeses. But then somebody got sick, or the car broke down, or the tire went flat, or whatever happened, the event didn't happen. Maybe it rained you out, or it was 115 degrees and they canceled the event. So all of a sudden the 200 conversations were stripped away from you, and that wasn't even in your control. And I started the conversation by judging you. Would that be a good coach? I don't think so. Just my thing. Listen without opinion. The next thing is to clear your head. Forget about you for a few minutes. Forget about you while you're on that call. It doesn't matter that you've got to cook dinner. It doesn't matter that, husband's going to be home for lunch in 15 minutes and there's no lunch meat in there and he doesn't even know how to make a sandwich, even if there was. It doesn't matter that the dryer is done and you haven't taken the clothes out, because they're going to get wrinkly. You can turn it back on later. Clear your head of all those little things that are rolling around about you and focus on the person. They are your number one priority during that conversation. Reflect to ensure that you're not talking more than you're listening. So you do have to talk, right? Because you have to ask questions. But one good way to know if you're listening is if you ask a question and they say, I just told you that. How many times has that happened? I'm raising my hand and I'm like, oh crap, you did. You did just tell me that. I heard you say that. But just because I heard you say it doesn't mean I was listening to it, right? I had an agenda in my head and I knew which question I was going to ask next. So clear your agenda, clear your head, and listen to what they're telling you. And then listen to what they're not telling you. Listen for the things that they're not saying out loud, because sometimes that's the best way to support your team member. So an active listening checklist. Focus. Seek first to understand and not judge. Pay attention. Restate key words. Phrases that are great are, so what I heard you say was, or correct me if I'm wrong, or, okay, so let me repeat that, or I want to make sure we're on the same page. All those things are really easy ways to restate what you just heard and have that person know that you're truly paying attention to what they're saying. And then, of course, take notes. Some of you may not have to take notes. And I know some of you laugh at me because you know that I have a photographic memory. So you'll ask me a question and I'll close my eyes and I can see the answer in my head. Now, I know that sounds really weird, but what I'm seeing in my head are the notes I took during our conversation. And because I have a photographic memory, I take notes all through the conversation, and I put bullet points and I put arrows. And by the end of the conversation, I reread those notes and then I summarize. And depending on the conversation, sometimes I send you guys a recap email. Sometimes it doesn't require a recap email. But the point of that is my notes are a jumbled mess to anybody else. But my brain takes a snapshot of those notes. I very rarely look back on my notes, but it's just because I have a photographic memory. I can close my eyes and see my notes. So then I can remember what we talked about. But taking the notes is a huge step, whether you have a photographic memory or not. Writing down those key things that you restated and the goals that your team wants is one way to make sure you're staying on the same path as them. Because remember, this is their path, not yours. They're laying the stones. All you're doing is kind of clearing the weeds out of the way, packing down the ground, making sure that it's ready and smooth for those stones to be laid down. Does that make sense? They're creating their path. You're just prepping it for them. And then, of course, you're there. If they need help lifting that stone, you're helping them. I am so sorry, you guys. I think I'm actually catching some sort of cold, and I'm not real happy about it. So I'm sorry that I just coughed. So again, taking notes is really, really important. Let's look at what a coaching interaction could look like. Okay, I'm going to cough again, so I'm going to mute myself for a second. I'm sorry. Okay, you guys, I'm so sorry. Okay, what does a coaching interaction look like? First, let's identify her needs. This is Jill. Jill's a bronze ambassador. She's very eager to build her Avon business. You've been working with Jill. You've been in contact with Jill for the last couple months. You guys have had a few coaching conversations. She's expressed frustration in not being able to recruit new team members as quickly as she'd like to. And you have a scheduled call to talk a little bit more about it. So obviously, Jill has already said yes, right, to the fact that she wants to be coach. She has expressed her need, which is, I would like to recruit people quicker. And you guys have set a time to talk. So let's talk a little bit. What kind of questions could you guys ask to really investigate the why? Can you think of any questions, whether it be in the chat box or out loud? You guys throw them out if you can. So think about that. What kind of questions could you ask Jill? Maybe we could revisit her why. What is urgent? Why is she, what is she feeling? First of all, how quickly is she recruiting people? She's frustrated she's not recruiting them quick enough. How quick is quick, right? What expectations does she have? What is she doing for recruiting? What recruiting activities is she doing? Exactly. You guys are, this is perfect. You guys are asking questions. And the questions are not yes or no questions. You guys are asking to get to know you guys are investigating right now. So what kind of stories might you share or recommendations might you give that could not only make Jill feel good about what she's already doing, but could inspire her or change her action or challenge or help her overcome her challenge? I know a lot of these would depend on what you found out in the why, but just in general, what could you throw out there? You're going to offer something that you've done in the past, right? You're going to offer a story about maybe, they all say you share, Susan, in my experience, making consistent effort pays off. So very, very true, right? Instead of instant gratification, keep your nose to the grindstone. Whatever you're doing right now, it takes a little while. You're planting seeds, right? We're farmers. We're We're planting seeds, we're watering them, we're nurturing them. They will grow eventually. So patience is a virtue. I love that, Susan. And of course, giving her kudos on what she's doing already and finding out there could be a disconnect. She may be recruiting like crazy, but not setting the next steps, right? So you guys got to keep asking questions until you know. One of the tools that I can offer you while asking these questions, this could be a huge tool. And let me, oops, I did not mean to do that. Let me get back to the bottom of my page. Oh my goodness, my screen is going nuts. Okay, let's see here. Okay, I'm going to do this for a second. I'm going to go up to, I want you guys to look at these things, and then I'm going to pull them up so that you guys can see them. Let me pull these up. We're going to talk about these a little bit. So one of the tools that we have for you guys to use while you're talking to your people and your team members is a coaching plan. And I want to look a little bit at it with you guys for a second. So this is one of the attachments that was emailed out to you guys just a few minutes before the call, probably 45 minutes to an hour before the call started. It was not attached to your invitation. So it came in a separate email. I'm sorry for that. But this is something that's going to help you guys. When I said take notes, this is a perfect place for you guys to do it. So you're going to put your team member's name. You know, why did you select this person? Take your own notes. And this is where you can really go back to what are they doing great? Because obviously you picked them for a reason. They have a quality. They have something within their business or within themselves that you find value in and you really would like to nurture that. So it gives you your checklists and it keeps you on task there. It reminds you of what the rich model is and how you can get to know somebody, you know, and it really breaks down what does she want in life. It helps you answer those questions. And so it breaks down that heart. It helps you get to know that heart. And then, of course, it helps you write their competencies. What competencies did you guys decide that you were going to focus on? What did she identify as development opportunities, and where can you make the biggest impact? So you're going to write those down, and then you're going to take notes on what you plan to do about it. This is a really great worksheet. Here's where you're going to take your notes on how to be real, how to connect with this person. If you heard in the conversation that one of the hurdles is, you know, she's super busy with family. Well, if you're a mom and a busy wife also, that's a relatable, right? So jot that down and say, you know, hey, I'm going to pull that back. I'm going to let her know that she's not in this alone. This is what I deal with, and this is how I found to overcome it. So being relatable, and you're going to make your notes there. And then, of course, it's going to give you an actual plan. You're going to document each of your coaching interactions. When did you talk to them? What was it about? What do you guys want to make sure you cover or ask? What was the result? What did you learn about her? And what are the next steps? And you have this for each person that you do. You print one out for each person. And it goes on and on so that you can have those coaching calls with them. So now let's look at that's the coaching plan, and you guys are going to fill that out for each of the people that say yes, they would like to be coached within your team. Now let's look at the coaching reference guide so that you guys can look back on this as you're going through. This is simply the enRICH model, the developing trusted relationships through intentional interactions, designed to build those competencies through inspiring the person's heart. So this gives you what that means. It gives you all of the competencies to ask for. It gives you the steps to take. It talks about questions. It gives you thought provokers. This is really something that you're going to play back to each time, right? This is something that you're going to look at over and over. This is definitely a tool for you guys. And then, of course, you have the coaching application guide. This is the same exact worksheet that you guys filled out in our Getting to Know Each Other module. And this is what you can send to your team member when they say yes, that they want to be coached. This is what you're going to do. And of course, you can send them that, if they're not sure, the competency guide, you don't send them. You guys took the self-assessment yourself. That self-assessment is on your leader reference, and that's something that you're doing verbally together with them. But those are the things that are coming today to you worksheet-wise. So now let's get back over to the slides from current slide. Okay. So now that we're back over to the slides, and you guys can see these in small form. So you got the coaching plan, which was the 4 pages. You're going to fill that out per person on your team that says, yes, they want to be coached. You have the application guide, which is what you send to the person that wants to be coached. That's how you're going to get to know their heart. That's how you're going to get to know their, kind of what their why is. And you're really going to get to know them a little bit better through that. And then, of course, you guys also have the reference guide. That reference guide is for you. That reference guide is giving you the thought starters, the questions to ask. Susan's asking, how do we determine our core performers, lowest and highest? Is it top and bottom 10%, the middle 80%? What is core? Okay, so in the beginning slides, remember the top 10% are your good performers, and we don't want to focus on those. Of course, you're there to support those, but that's not the core. And the poor performers, or the people that need the action item, is, on the other end of the spectrum. You want to focus on the middle, those ones that you tend to leave out. That middle 80% is the core. The ones that do what they're supposed to do, so there's no need to call them and remind them of stuff, but they're not doing it in such an amazing way that you call them and recognize them. They're the ones that tend to get left out. And so they're usually the ones that can make the biggest impact, because they're usually the ones super excited that you reached out to them. So definitely that middle 80%, you hit it perfectly, Susan, with it's not that top performance and it's not the poor performers, it's that middle 80%. And if you're having a hard time determining who those are, give me a call and we can look through your downline together. But really, if they're not on your action items and they're not somebody that you reach out to consistently to say, wow, great job, then they're probably in that middle 80%. So just ask yourself, when was the last time I talked to this person? If it hasn't been in the last couple weeks, have a conversation with them, for sure. Thank you for asking that, Susan, because I may not have really emphasized that well. So thank you, thank you. So what's the hot topic question? Who has most influenced your success with your Avon business, and why? We're going to talk about it on your one-on-ones. We're going to talk about it on the collaboration call. But who's the person that has had the most influence on your Avon business, and why? And I don't know if you guys find value when I share, but I think that it helps me be relatable to you. So I like to answer these hot topic questions with you. So I answer it, so I only have to say it once for everybody. But the person who influenced my Avon success in my business the most, some of you know him and some of you don't, but it was my district manager. It was Randy Way. Susan was probably the sweetest upline. I'm going to say she was the best upline that I could have ever asked for, because Susan supported in exactly the way I asked her to. She reached out to me. She let me know what I was doing. She let me know what was going on. And really at the end of the day, she let me be a brat to her too, which was, I don't want to make friends. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I was the queen of I don't want to. And then, she smiled and she let me be a brat. And then she invited me to recruit, and she invited me to do these things with her. And it was never pushing, it was always inviting. And I finally decided to kind of take part in that. And that was a huge, huge step for me, because Susan was very nurturing to me and I needed that. And then Susan introduced me to district sales meetings, and I went to one. And I met the district manager, who I had met once before, but I met the district manager at the sales meeting and basically listened to him say, what's stopping you? And why are you letting it stop you? And it was so funny to me, because I was like, well, nothing's stopping me, and so I went home from that sales meeting with, well, what is stopping me? Nothing's stopping me. I don't even know who that guy is. I'm going to show him. So it was one of those, it was my brattiness that came out in me. And it was that moment that I decided it's nose to the grindstone, because nothing's stopping me. And what a simple question is that somebody asked, what's stopping you? I have no idea if he realizes the impact that he had on my business. But what I realized was nothing was stopping me. And that's what made the difference in my Avon business, was the moment I realized nothing was stopping me. So I leave you guys with one last question. What's stopping you? So I love that you guys put in the chat box. I'll have to give Randy a call and tell him all the kudos that he just got in this chat box. Bye, Susan. Susan has to jump off. And you guys, if you need to jump off, the module it's over. This is it. It's coaching. So we have our one-on-one calls scheduled. I will be gone next week, but like I said, if you have to jump on and listen to the replay and you have questions, shoot them out on the GroupMe first. I will be paying attention to the GroupMe while I'm gone. If somebody on the GroupMe cannot answer your question, by all means, I'll jump on the GroupMe and answer it. And if it's something urgent and you can't wait for GroupMe to answer it, just call me. Like I said, if I'm not on the plane or I'm not in the middle of something, if I can take that call, I'm going to take that call. But I just want to shout out to all the great things that you guys said about Randy too, because I thought that was sweet. And I don't know if everybody can see the chat, but Teresa said Randy was my manager for a short period and I would have loved to work with him longer. He was really, really good at this. And I honestly, he's probably the best coach I have ever known. Susan also says Randy is awesome. So Teresa answered what's stopping you, and Teresa said myself. Teresa, that's exactly what my answer was too in my head when he asked me that. I'm not going to be my own biggest hurdle. So I ask that you guys ask yourself that a lot. What's stopping you? And if the answer is you, then why? Why are you stopping yourself? And what can I do to help move you out of your own way? So you guys think about that. Everybody have a great weekend. Let me know if you have questions about the coaching, this module, this seminar session. I'm here to support you. But really, you guys, this is about letting your team self-discover. And this is about everything that we've been doing together and you picking a few people, one person. Start with one, move on to two. Find that one person who's ready to grow and watch the magic happen. Because I have to tell you, this is the most rewarding thing that I have ever had the ability to do. And I'm so excited for you guys to be able to do it too. Thank you, Teresa, for wishing me safe travels. I really, really appreciate it. And like I said, guys, I'm here. So if you guys need me, call me. As long as I'm not in flight or something like that, I'm going to answer my phone. So you guys have a great weekend. Have a fantastic next week. Try to stick to your calendars. Try to stick to your plans. But by all means, know that you are driving the car of success. So if you have to make a little detour or pull over, just make sure you get back on the road. I'll talk to you guys later.